What's up, YouTube? Uni here to bring you another video, and today we are doing episode 4 of Ship Happens. And today I have, of course, our very special guest, MageDuckey, and today we wanted to talk about how to use Mace effectively. Obviously, at my rank, I'm not good at this. I'm not good at ships, so I'm not going to find a perfect Mace. So we thought we'd take a Mace, look at him, look at his synergies, and talk about what's good, and then also talk about what areas are there for improvement. So with that, MageDuckey, he was just talking to me. He really likes this guy's fleet as an example. This oddlog guy here on the far right, who I would never attack because he's got the 5 stars. He's got the full Republic fleet. This looks terrifying, and I don't even know why. I just know Mace is scary to me because I run Geonosis Soldier, and that freaking critical hit immunity drives me nuts. MageDuckey, talk to me about why? Because I don't know why I'm afraid about it. Talk to me about what this guy's doing and what he could do to improve a little bit in terms of running a Republic fleet underneath Mace Windu.
Well, first of all, I wouldn't want to touch that fleet either. Despite the fact that I think it's slightly off on the fleet comp, there are far better choices for you to pick through. I think in our last episode, the guy at rank 761 was a far easier target. So definitely, people like him, just avoid.
Yeah.
Don't waste, fleet arena attempts trying to chew through somebody that you don't have to if you can pick off the weaker guys around them.
Even if they're slightly odd, you would still step away from them. I'm doing a play on words with his name. I'm sorry, I had to do it.
Oh. No, I was like, wait, maybe he is trying to say that, but no, it's probably just me. Nope, it was him.
Yeah, no, I went there. I did that.
Fair enough. Well, what I really like about this is that JC, Ahsoka, and Plo are already here. So you've got the squishy side of the Republic core down. He has Biggs as his tank.
Well, first of all, let's back up 1 second because I'm literally that dense. What about Mace makes Republic ships better? Like, what of these abilities is it? Is it this one, the crew?
It's actually not because it would be the third one, the unique. Bonus is doubled for Republic allies, but that's not important. At max, that goes from 18 to 36%, so you're getting an additional 18% offense whenever you're starting to basically die. That's not what makes Republic fleets great under Mace Windu. What makes Republic fleets great is that the only other targetable taunt in the game is a Republic ship. That targetable taunt gets a sizable protection up when it drops it on another Republic ship. All 3 clones are tanks. The 3 of the only 5 tanks available, and none of them can taunt on their own. Ahsoka is a Dispel. She's Republic, and she helps you get through a taunt that you normally couldn't get through because Republic doesn't have as much single target damage. So what makes a Republic fleet great under Mace isn't the fact that they're Republic, it's the fact that the developers decided to make the Republic ships taunt and really tanky, which just happens to synergize really well with Mace Windu's kit.
Okay.
So with this Republic fleet here, he only has 1 tank that we can see. Probably has a clone tank as a reinforcement. My guess would probably be either 5s or clone sergeant, more than likely. But the tank that he has isn't going to be triggering on its own very often. The only target lock he has is a crit off of Biggs Basic. So that taunt you don't have to worry too much about. Plo and Mace, however, both have targetable taunts, but because Biggs isn't a Republic fleet, a Republic ship, there's a good chance that they will drop the taunt on Jedi Consular or on Plo. Just for whatever reason, the AI seems to prefer Republic tanks, or Republic ships for the most part, when trying to target the taunt. So what I personally would do is remove Biggs, because you're not going to be triggering his special to be recovering that protection very often. and replace him with either Clone Sergeant or Fives. Now, I personally prefer Fives in the starting lineup because then you can have Maul as a reinforcement, and when Maul comes in, drop Retribution on Fives. While that does hand out a bit of turn meter, it also lays down offense and defense down on most of the opposing fleet.
Why does Maul put Retribution on Fives?
Because his special is Slip Through, or I guess his crew ability is Slip Through, which places Retribution and Protection up for 2 turns on target ship. All other ships gain Stealth for 2 turns.
Oh, okay, so you could target who gets it, you're saying, and he should put it on Fives?
Yes, okay. And there's a good chance that the AI will put it on Fives because he would have the most health at that point.
Okay.
Presumably. And so, at the very least, on offense, you can intentionally put it on Fives to then spread offense down. And Fives has one of the highest health pools. You can then slap a Plo taunt for protection up, a JC heal, or a Mace Windu taunt that includes a heal on him to increase his survivability. And he's going to be applying offense down, making it harder for people to kill him, to get through the taunt to kill your backline ships.
So you're saying with Mace, it's almost a given that you want Fives in your opening lineup?
Fives or Clone Sergeant.
Okay.
Either or, instead of Biggs.
Okay.
So, Geonosian Soldier's probably one of the strongest attackers, and so in that regard, it makes sense to use him just to add some offensive punch to his fleet. But it doesn't synergize very well with Mace. And so I would love to see a Rex instead of that Geonosian Soldier. Because Rex is going to provide, in a full Republic fleet, it's going to provide 50% turn meter and 50% protection recovery every other turn. So he is just a healing machine to just constantly replenish your tank, whichever one happens to be taunting. And so I really appreciate having Rex and Fives in there instead of Geo Soldier and Biggs.
But JC would play well there too, right? With his heal or protection up thing.
Yes, because with his protection up, he can. And say you have Fives, he does that. He's going to be pulling in Fives for another offense down. Plo gives up to 65% protection up if his targetable taunt goes onto a Republic ship. And so it makes a lot more sense for your tank in a Mace fleet to be a Republic tank.
Okay, so the Mace game, and while I've known it's always been about the taunts, because I've never used Mace other than just the challenges, it's about putting those taunts on the tank and then having those units to sustain that tank while the attacking units go at it. You keep healing up that tank, and it's applying offense down so that they're doing less damage against that tank. But it's about sustenance of the tank while the teeth, quote unquote, are going at it from being protected in a sense. The squishy tanks the squishy guys of Ahsoka and JC get a free pass while Biggs and while Fives and Rex do all the hard work of protecting the tank, basically.
Yes.
Okay.
And so Mace and Plo both have targetable taunts, and they are both on 3-turn cooldowns. And they both last for 2 turns. So you can drop one of the 2 taunts, Ahsoka can dispel it, you drop the other taunt, and then that will still last until the taunt is up again to where you could drop it on a different tank. And so you can play these taunt shenanigans, basically, and just bounce the taunt around constantly to prevent any one tank from getting fully destroyed.
Okay. Now, so let's say this guy, because obviously limited resources, we didn't, Rex wasn't farmable before. Let's say he gets Rex. Let's say he gets Fives and he replaces those 2. So this is his starting lineup, except with Fives and with Rex. What about reinforcements? Is that a big play when it comes to Mace and how you use Mace? Like, are there particular reinforcements you should be targeting?
Personally, I think that Maul is one of the best reinforcements to use because his retribution, his slip through, which places retribution and then stealths everybody else, is essentially another taunt. But it's a taunt that has return damage. And if you drop it on somebody like Fives, you'll get offense and defense down. If you drop it on somebody like Clone Sergeant, you're going to be producing more target locks because you're attacking out of turn for those, so those basic abilities have more chances to trigger. So Maul, I think, is a great reinforcement for just about everybody to get. He's also the best counter to your opponent's Maul because retribution will not trigger if your ship is stealthed. So you can attack their ship that has retribution on it without having all that return damage, and you basically nullify it. So it's one of those where not only is it really strong, but it's also a good counter to itself. So everybody should be investing in Maul and Scimitar.
And why is that a reinforcement as opposed to a starting lineup?
Because he's one of the slowest ships around, and if he is in your starting lineup, especially on defense, he's most likely going to be focused and killed. Whereas if he's a reinforcement, he's guaranteed to get his thing off.
Okay, that makes sense.
And the AI will always... So that the AI brings in reinforcements in the order that you have them listed on the fleet setup screen. Okay. And so if you put Maul in first, the first reinforcement that your fleet commander is going to bring in will be Maul, and Maul will use his special, technically his crew, sorry, and so will act as basically an additional taunt to help defend your fleet. And so he's a phenomenal reinforcement.
Okay, yeah, I've seen him used at higher level play, but I've just never had access to Maul. I've only started farming him, so that seems pretty cool. I've always wondered how you put retribution on. Okay.
Yep, and I actually, realizing that I'm only level 75 right now, I was placed in a Fleet Arena shard back when I was level 64. So we're not looking at, max characters, max ships here. But my Scimitar is still level 1, 3-star, or whatever it unlocks at. Maul is a 4-star, gear 4. I mean, the ship is slow, it has no damage, it has no health. But because it's a reinforcement, it's guaranteed to get that retribution group stealth off. And he's still an invaluable member of my team, even though he's pathetic, stat-wise right now.
Okay.
Because that one ability just does so much for your team. So I'd say Maul first. I typically, especially in a Republic fleet, but just in general, I really like the idea of Clone Sergeant as a third reinforcement, because by the time you get to your third reinforcement, you're down to like a couple ships on each side usually, and you're probably past the point of the ultimates having been used, and so at that point you need a ship that can take a bunch of hits yet deal out some damage. Clone Sergeant has 48% protection recovery that gives him offense up for 3 turns. He applies target lock on his basic, and then his crew ability is a guaranteed crit against target lock. Clone Sergeant is one of the best duelists in ships, in my personal opinion.
So is he kind of like the Fives, like an arena where it's like if there's one guy that's going to do a 1v3, it's Fives. Is Clone Sergeant that guy that can, usually handle his own in a 1-on-1, decent in a 1-on-2, 1-on-3, kind of iffy, but he's good to be your last standing ship, you're saying?
Yes. I really like him as the last man standing kind of deal. Ships are balanced enough right now that I don't think he could hold out on a 1v3 unless they were all pretty weakened to begin with. But he's certainly great 1-on-1, and he's still really good 1-on-2, especially under a Mace lead where he's going to be getting the 48% protection recovery every 3 turns, and have a chance at damage immunity.
Yeah.
So I like him at third. Then the second reinforcement, is kind of your flex role, because you've got the Maul and you've got the 6 Republic ships. Um, so there's no like obvious answer here. Like I feel like there are with other ships.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably go with somebody that has a lot of damage. So if you, in using your fleet, if you find that you're dropping target locks pretty regularly, you've got at least 1, if not 2 target locks out most of the time, you could consider First Order TIE Pilot, because second highest damage special in the game right now for ships, and it's refreshed whenever it targets a target lock. He's sped up whenever target locks are hit, and Mace Windu has an AoE that hits all of the target locks. So First Order TIE Pilot is definitely a strong consideration because of his synergy with the target locks. You could also go with a standalone damage like Poe. You've got him up pretty high from back when he was, Speed King.
Old meta, yeah.
Yeah, they were really old meta. If you've got him up, plus he's pretty easy to get up in terms of being in Cantina shipments. I feel like most everybody's getting at least 1 of those a day. So he's a relatively quick farm compared to others like Clone Sergeant, First Order TIE Pilot. Those guys are hard node only. So those are just going to be really slow farms, and because of that, they may not be good choices for you as that second or third reinforcement, because, if you don't have the pilots up there, their stats are just not going to be high enough to really be worth, trying to go for what they provide in terms of their kit.
Sure.
Maul is one of the few ships that can get away with not having any investment in the pilot and still being extremely useful as a reinforcement. Now, would he be better if he had more health so he could take more than 1 shot to the face? Yes. But he's still useful.
Yeah.
There aren't very many ships that are useful without that kind of investment.
And that's so true about Arena too. He's so low on health. If Arena ever got to the point, do you ever play like the old school Mortal Kombat games? They used to have those tournaments where once one of your units got knocked out, like the new one came in. If that ever came out in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, I would feel like Darth Maul could be one of those reinforcements. Comes right in and does his AoE.
Just daze everybody and screw up everything.
That'd be delicious. Especially, Biggs. I hate him. I hate him and his stupid turn meter gain. But anyways, that's another video.
Yes.
Okay, so that's the recommended, at least right now, with our fleets. That's a way that you could do it. That's the way you would recommend doing it.
Yes, that is the MageDuckey's personal opinion.
Right.
On how to do a Mace Republic fleet.
Right. And these shift with the wind. The meta shift with the wind. But for right now, that's the way that can work for right now. You're saying.
Yes. Yes, and of course, results will vary based on what pilots you've invested in before ships and then since ships launched. So, it's one of those viewer discretion is advised. If you have a 7-star Gear 11 Geo Soldier, put him in your Mace Windu Republic fleet. He's going to put out damage. So it's take all of this advice, I would say, with a grain of salt, because it's very relative based on what you have available to you at the time.
Right. Yeah, it's there's end game look, and then there's where you currently are, and the stepping stones to get to that end game, assuming that's where you're going. So, great advice.
And one thing I personally think is kind of funny about Mace is a lot of people are going with Mace. They're going with the Wigs, the Ahsoka, the JC, because these are ships that they already have pretty well geared for the pilots. But it doesn't help them get Zeta challenge at all, because they need 5 4-star dark side ships, and so they're ahead but behind.
Yeah. Let's make that our next video, because I'd love to talk about that, because I've heard people say, I just unlocked Tarkin just to get that dang ship, but then I use mostly light side ships to actually complete the challenge. But let's save that for the next one, where we could talk about the Zeta mats, the importance of those, and how to go about doing that.
All right, sounds good.
All right, MageDuckey, I appreciate your time. Any final thoughts on the Mace fleet before we sign off?
It's a PETA, and I generally try to avoid it if I can.
Yes, I've heard that it's a defensive game. You know, particularly with the timers. Who knows if they're going to change the timers or change animations? I don't know. But right now, there is a stall-out game. Mace is one of them, and here's one of the ways that you can go about doing that with sustaining your tanks. So, MageDuckey, you're awesome. Appreciate your time. If you guys have any questions, I'm going to put the link to our Discord. Come out, talk to MageDuckey. He loves talking ships. And we'll catch you guys later. So good luck with your farming. Una out.